Good morning, everyone, again, and happy Mother's Day. This is a great day. It's Sunday, the first day of the week, and we get to express our appreciation for our mothers today, and we're going to combine that all in a sermon here this morning. But first, I want to tell you why I'm holding this bouquet of flowers. There are three sets of bouquets in here, or it makes up one large one, but there's three sets of flowers. This first one is for my lovely bride, Amanda, who is my bride and also the mother of my two sons. Thank you. Happy Mother's Day, Amanda. We appreciate you. The second is a set of flowers for my mother. Mom, thank you for raising me and my brother. Thank you for being a good mom to us. Happy Mother's Day. Now, if you'll notice, last Wednesday we had a Bible class together and we began discussing Judges and Ruth. We're going to go on adventure this morning with Naomi in the book of Ruth. It's during the historical times in their Old Testament Bible. It's back in the historical time where Joshua has just died and the tribes are going to go and they're going to continue this military war and this conquest. And in the midst of this period of time, the book of Ruth is written. And I want to show you what is there, kind of take you on a journey with Ruth and Naomi and look at, well, what it's like to be a great mom from Naomi's perspective. By great, I mean significant. I think you can connect with her this morning, and I think you're going to be able to find things that you have in common or that hopefully encourage you and inspire you to continue to be great mothers. And then those of us who are not mothers can look at Naomi and say, wow, we can really respect and appreciate this godly woman. Open your Bibles to the book of Ruth this morning. As we catch the culture, the context, I want you to get a feel for what it was like to actually be there during that time or what that might be like today. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible says this: "In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man of Bethlehem in Judah went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his two sons. The name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the name of his sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah. They went into the country of Moab and remained there." Now, I want three words in your mind, just sketched in your mind this morning from Naomi's perspective as we begin this book, the book of Ruth, and we look at Naomi. Three words: bread, bride, boys. Bread, bride, boys. Sketch those in your mind. We are going to revisit those in bold a few times during this sermon. As we look at this particular scene, it's very clear that this Israelite family, they lived in Bethlehem. They moved to a place called Moab. And during this time of Judges, there were different judges ruling, and then sometimes God allowed these other people, these other nations, to rule over Israel, and there was back and forth conquest. It was a time of political instability. Does that sound familiar? I think we're living at a time of political instability right now. I really do. You know, politics are all over the place for all kind of reasons. It was also a time of economic instability. Did you notice that the Bible said there was a famine in the land in Bethlehem? They left their area where they were having difficulty getting food. They went to Moab. This was a sojourning, a traveling experience, I think, to help them, well, provide better for their family. The grass is greener on the other side. It might be a better place to live. There might be a better job or more food or whatever. Economic instability. Does that sound familiar? We're living at a time of economic instability right now. And so there was essentially political instability, economic instability, and then, well, there's spiritual instability as well. And we know that because the book of Judges tells us that these Israelites, because they didn't drive these people out of the lands, and they actually enslaved them, Uh, and then they ended up having war with them. And then times of peace, they ended up exchanging their sons and daughters with these people and ended up incorporating idols. And it really affected them spiritually. A time of spiritual instability. You can guess what I'm about to say. Yes, we are experiencing spiritual instability even right now. So I want you to connect with the cultural context of the situation, to place your mind there. There's just a lot of instability going on. Now look what happens in verse number 3, Ruth 1, verse 3. But Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. These took Moabite wives. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. They lived about 10 years. Both Mahlon and Chilion died, so that the woman was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Naomi did not have bread, bride, boys. She was without the bread, bride, boys. So she had bread, bride, boys. Now she is without bread, bride, boys. And I want that etched in your mind so you can just get the perspective in the mental picture that she was doing well, she is not doing well right now. In fact, during that particular time, and as it still is today in other countries like Kenya and other places, your children are actually more or less, you become your caretakers for retirement as you get aged and your abilities begin to dwindle down and diminish. Your children, your family, they look after you. She lost them. She lost her children, her family. This is just a tangent, just a side note, but I just want to throw the warning that's clearly here out to you all. When you consider moving, why are you moving? When you consider to move to a different place, is it just because, well, I think that place is nicer, I'd like to live over there, or I'd like to get a better job, I think the pastures are greener on that side of town or on that side of the United States. Be careful where you move and why you're moving. These particular people left their family, left God's people, and went into a foreign land. I've heard stories over and over how, hey man, I made this move. It was for my career. Wasn't a great move for my family. We had spiritual struggles. My house was essentially going down the drain as spiritually. Be careful why you're making moves. Are you leaving your family behind? Are you leaving God's family behind? Think about those things as you consider moving. And that's a lesson we can learn from just right here in Ruth chapter 1. Now, the title I threw out there in the trailer this week was Naomi, a woman who, ... Fill in the blank. We're going to fill in the blanks this morning. It's more than just about bread, bride, boy. There's some details in here. I want you to go on this adventure with Naomi this morning. First, what we have already is a woman who is stricken with tragedy. Naomi is a woman who was devastated by tragedy. She loses her husband. She loses her sons. I've already told you the significance of that. It incredibly significant. She loses them. She is devastated. She's scared. She's worried about her life. Her life is unstable at the moment. Absolutely, she's grieving. There's in the midst of political, spiritual, and economic instability, she is now suffering directly. In this particular case, widowed, and she's left with her 2 daughters-in-law from her sons. They're with her, Orpah and Ruth, and that's what I want to show you, and what goes on next. But from Naomi's perspective, as she thanks them for being with her during this process of grieving, from Naomi's eyes, can you imagine in a time of political instability, spiritual instability, economic instability, burying your husband? That's what she had to do. Can you imagine during this time of instability and loss and grief and uncertainty, she had to bury her children? Have you ever had to bury a husband? Have you ever had to bury a child? Can you imagine the tragedy she's stricken with? In the midst of this tragedy, nobody wants to be left alone. And the daughters, Orpah and Ruth, they know that. they expressed their love to their mother-in-law, saying, we'll go with you. We notice in verse 6 that Naomi, she arises, and she's ready to go back home to Bethlehem where she came from, because she'd heard that food's back in plenty there again. She wants to go back. And so she's ready to go back, and her daughter-in-laws, they say, hey, let's go back with you. We'll go back with you. And she tells them, no, you're not going to do that. I cannot bear for you any more children. I don't have a husband for you in my womb. I'm too old. You need to go back home to your families. You need to go get a husband. You need to have a family of your own. And a time where she was absolutely talking to the last two people she had real connections with, she was willing to let them go. Would you want to do that? No. Would I want to do that? No. Did Naomi want to do that? Probably not. But she did it because Naomi was a mother who cared. She cared enough in the midst of tragedy. She cared enough about these two daughters that she had. She cared enough about them to let them go. She put them over her own needs. Absolutely. She really did. Now, what we find next is that Ruth and Naomi, Orpah says, okay, they hugged, they wept. Orpah goes. She leaves. Ruth and Naomi now engage in a debate. Have you ever seen a mother and a daughter-in-law debate, or a mother-in-law and a daughter debate, however you want to look at that debate? Oh, this is what happened. They were debating. And you know what happened here in this particular case? Ruth was insistent. I'm going with you, Naomi. And Naomi, she stopped. She stopped debating. She listened to her daughter-in-law, and they became a great team. Now, what I want you to notice here is, and I'm certainly not trying to say this, but Naomi is a mother who listened. Now, you mothers out there, I know you don't think you're right about everything. I'm certainly not right about everything, but don't you think you're right about the things you think you're right about? Naomi did, but she listened. Naomi was a mother who listened. And that's what we can find as they now team up and they're on their way back to Bethlehem. You can see here that they're around this area of Moab, and they're going to go all the way back to Bethlehem. I cannot imagine the journey that they have to take here, how long and what they had to endure to get from Moab to Bethlehem. But they did. They accomplished this journey. Ruth told Naomi in Ruth chapter 1, verse 16, but Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you, for where you will go, I will go. And where you lodge, I will lodge. For your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Wow. Can you imagine? What an incredible compliment to Naomi as a mother. And so they arrive back in Bethlehem. And people are saying, oh, Naomi. They're sort of the talk of the town, right? You know what Naomi says? Don't call me Naomi. You can call me Mara, which means bitter. You can call me bitter. For God has dealt bitterly with me. She was real. This was raw emotion, real life, ups, downs, tragedy, blessings, all wrapped up. And Naomi says, you know what? I'm going through an awful time right now. And if God wanted me to have this or God wanted me to have that, I would have it. But right now, I have a cup of bitterness. I'm bitter. It's okay to be honest. It's okay to express your emotions or how you're feeling, or even that you're spiritually bankrupt at the moment. And that's what she was doing. She's saying, I'm empty. I'm bitter. I'm empty. And she recognized that she never gave up on God. No, and in fact, think about the faith that she had to have to make the journey back to God's people in Bethlehem. So she did, and there they were. And she begins to give Ruth advice. And Naomi is a mother who gives counsel and advice. And one of the things she did was she gave counsel on working. Ruth, she's a Moabite. She doesn't know the customs of the Israelite people. She didn't grow up with them. She doesn't know all the ins and outs of work and relationships and all these different things. I mean, she needs coaching. She needs counseling, and Naomi was that for her. In fact, we find Ruth picking up scraps in the grain field just to bring home to feed them. That's where they started This is literally scraping the bottom here. This is poverty. This is where they were. She begins to work her way on up to being noticed and being given more food, and their reputations were really well, outstanding reputations. And then Naomi gets to have a little fun. I picture a lot of mothers having fun, so to speak, with this sort of thing, at least in some way, shape, form, or fashion, with matchmaking. That's right. Well, Naomi was helping Ruth get the attention of a man named Boaz, who had the ability to redeem them as a family. And there was some history and tradition and even law for the Israelites to continue family lines in certain ways. And so Naomi knew all these rules and all these things. And so Naomi gave Ruth counsel about respecting men. Now let me go off on a tangent here because I are one. I'm a man, and I just want to take a moment to say I'm totally for equal opportunity. Those opportunities spanning from education to employment, all those things. Great, I'm all for that. But what I'm not a fan of is when we target certain groups and put them down so that other groups might be lifted up. And this isn't necessarily an attack on any particular person, gender, race, or anything like that. But here's what I want you to get out of what I'm saying. We need mothers to teach respect of all people, certainly of different races or ethnicities or men, women, you name it. But we've lost a lot of respect. And I believe we lost a lot of respect for men. A lot of sitcoms and all these shows with propaganda that just tell jokes about men, such as, oh, did you get married and you have 2 boys now? Well, it's actually you have 3 boys because your husband's a boy. No, I'm not a boy. I'm not one of Amanda's kids. I'm not. And that we might think that that's funny, but that's really not funny. This is Naomi who's teaching Ruth respect, and she respected this man named Boaz, and that's just a great thing. You know what? We appreciate moms, and we need moms to teach their children respect for people, again, regardless of gender or race. We need respectful relationships to be encouraged by our mothers. And so Naomi does that for Ruth. And in fact, this continues this relationship, and I want you to see this in Ruth chapter 4. In Ruth chapter 4, I'll begin reading in verse number 13. Ruth chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. So Boaz took Ruth. Oh, it happened. It worked. The matchmaking worked. Has that ever happened as a mother for you in your life? So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went into her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. And then the woman said to Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. The women are shouting out loud, oh, Naomi, how great are you, and how great is God, and how great is Boaz, who has redeemed you, and Ruth, he's going to take care of you too. Listen what they say next. Verse 15, He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him, to Boaz. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap, and she became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood gave him a name, saying, A son has been born to Naomi. They named him Obed, and he was the father of Jesse, the father of David. A son has been born to Naomi. Now, did you catch that? So this incredible story is now come full circle. And what we see in this case with Naomi is that Naomi, she as a mother, she's a mother who loved her son-in-law, Boaz. She is a mother who loved her grandson, Obed, and she actually helped rear him. We need mothers to be great grandmothers, to be wonderful grandmothers who help raise grandchildren, not just spoil them, to help raise them, to help teach them what's right, to be that reinforcer and to be that stability and bedrock for them. That's what we need mothers to do, and that's what she did. That's what Naomi was. She was this bedrock, this person of stability and strength and direction and counsel. In fact, really, she was behind the scenes until you see the women of the community come and begin praising her. Oh, blessed be the Lord, but they gave God the credit. How great is that? Is the community doing that for you as a mother? They ought to be, whether they're praising you or they're praising your children, but they're praising God, but because of you, because of your children, and your children because of you. And this is what was happening with Naomi. Oh, what a wonderful thing. What a wonderful day to be respected not only by Boaz and his family, but the community at large. Naomi was. And then Ruth was too. We need great mothers like this. I want you to notice, though, as we came to a full circle, Naomi now has bride for Ruth, and a boy from Ruth. Bread, bride, boy. That boy was Obed. That boy fathered a man named Jesse. Jesse fathered a man named David, who became king of Israel. And that tribe, Judah, the tribe of Judah from which they came, is the same tribe that Jesus came from. What an incredible story Naomi brings to us today from a mother's point of view. And I don't know if you noticed, this book of Ruth is really about Naomi. Yes, I know that Naomi's mentioned some 12 times, but Ruth is mentioned some 12 times, but Naomi is mentioned some 22 times. Incredible. Actually, Naomi is mentioned in the first 3 verses of every single chapter. And a son has been born to who? To Naomi. Incredible woman, incredible book. It's influenced, I think, so many today. It's influenced me, and I hope it's influenced you. You see, in this book, we find that that Naomi and all these things that transpired was really a testament to her faith. It was a testament to her life. She was real. She struggled ups and downs, prosperity, tragedy, amongst instability. She rode the roller coaster of life. Testament to her faith, testament to her strength. And you see, I think at the end of the day, that's what it really means to be a mother. Those of you who want to be mothers and those of you who are mothers, I think this is what it's all about. It's all about, well, being a backbone. That's what Naomi was for Ruth, a backbone. And you see, we often don't really understand or we don't think about our backbones, literally our spine. We don't think about it. It's there. It's performing an incredibly important job of stability, of support. It's performing an incredibly important job. And that's what she was in Naomi's life. But oftentimes, is the case, it's being a mother's a thankless job. It's a thankless role. It's like a backbone. You don't thank your spine. You don't thank your backbone a whole lot. You really don't think about it too much unless it's nagging you. Well, then you got issues with your backbone. Well, we don't want to be one of those backbones, do we? No, but Naomi wasn't. She showed us how to be a great backbone, positively encouraging and supporting and showing direction and providing counsel. She was an incredible backbone, not only to Ruth, not only to Obed, to society. Great mothers are great, strong contributors to society. Don't forget that. May that bless you today, and think about that. We appreciate you mothers today. And I want us to understand that at the end of the day, when we look at this and we think about our Redeemer, it makes me think about Jesus. And while I want to say thank you to our mothers, I want to say even more, thank you to godly mothers, those who are following Jesus. And today I want to express my utmost appreciation for Jesus himself. You know, I reserved these last set of flowers for someone's that I didn't mention in the beginning of this sermon. This is for you mothers, all of you who are watching this video. from the Church of Christ at Indian Land to you. We appreciate who you are, what you've had to go through, and what you will go through as a mother. We pray that this sermon will be an encouragement to you for the rest of your life, to be a strong backbone, that God will provide you bread, bride, and a boy, a child, children. More than that, we pray that God will provide for you a way to receive His Word, to be redeemed, to be saved, to be nourished and supported by Jesus Christ, who wants to do that for you. That's the greatest thing that you could take away from today, really. To be a mother who follows Jesus. You have an opportunity to do that, and I hope you will. I hope you'll contact us to let us know how we can study with you so that you can give your life to Jesus. And all of you, anyone watching this video, give your life to Jesus, who really is the Redeemer, the Restorer, and the Nourisher of our lives. May God bless you with this message today.